PAWS, I'm just intrigued. I got intrigued by PAWS simply because the logo. It's two little paws. I never really looked at it, but the logo always intrigued me. I just thought it was fun. So we're going to look at it now. PAWS, as it turns out, is a parser and a writer for syntax, where the word pause comes from. In our organization, we're always encouraged to produce, to write, to document, to share the information we have. But that is a lot of work, and people don't, and a lot of our translators and linguists are among the most overworked people in our organization, and it's like they just have a hard time sitting down and writing and documenting grammars and things. So this software tool called PAWS was designed to help facilitate that. And what PAWS is, it basically, if you give it information, if you answer a series of questions, PAWS will give you a rough, according to the documentation, if you answer all these questions, which are things people know, if you work at a language for a couple of years, you have this information in your head. You just need to get it on paper. If you just work down the steps, you'll get it out of your head onto paper. And then when you're all done, you click the create documents, generate files, and then all of a sudden you have a grammar that's about 100 pages long and is most of the way there. So if I were to attempt to, I'll show you some questions. So these are overall typology questions, and just kind of work your way through them, answer some questions. And I'm not going to try to answer them because it'll betray my definite lack of knowledge. Just kind of work through them, and you work through them over time. You don't sit down at one go. It remembers and saves. So with PAWS, the documentation for it actually has a Google slide presentation that I'm going to demonstrate, show kind of how it works. PAWS was a parser and writer for syntax, an easier way to write a grammar. Which do you think is easier, starting to write with a stack of blank paper or answering a series of questions? Some people might think a blank piece of paper is awesome. I needed to be prompted and guided. So in their example, they actually had a grammar workshop where it wasn't just the two linguists sitting down or a few linguists sitting down and hashing it out. It was actually a workshop where they just went through the stages. So in this example, in Mitla in 2013, there were 29 participants in 15 languages. Some of them were in teams and others worked individually. And when they were done, they had a draft of these are drafts of their very first grammar. And so it's an encouragement that you can do it too. So this would be interesting. And then some of the, and each page consists of an introduction to the construction, and underlying technical terms of pop-ups, and examples in English, and then you fill them out. You just fill them out as you go. Right now, this is localized in Spanish and French, which stands to reason. It was started in Mexico, so Spanish would be a language of wider communication, and also French is an international language for linguistics. But English would work for us, I think, especially if we were guiding people through the process. And then you just kind of work your way through. And once you start editing the grammar file, with maybe about 100 pages. And then there's some XML editors that you can use that I'm not going to demonstrate now. I thought it would be just enough to get started. And when you're done, you have a grammar file. You have a file or a workshop. You have a grammar that can be shared. So that is PAWS.